If you notice that you get yeast infections a lot, or you get BV a lot, or wherever else might be going on wrong, there is something that can help you eliminate whatever that issue might be.
Would love to hear maybe not the not so positive time in your life, what we're going through and what health struggles you were facing before finding Happy V.
Sure. First thing, I found out I had fibroids in 2021, and I was getting my period every day for a year, and I couldn't figure out. I've always had bad periods, 7 to 10 days, excruciating pain. You get used to it after a while. It's not something you should get used to, but you do. But when I started noticing it was every day, I'm like, what's going on here? Made an appointment with a great gynecologist in my state, and we found out it was fibroids. And of course, I was devastated because I'm like, I had just turned 36, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have kids yet, and now I got to deal with this. So it was nerve-wracking for me. And the first thing they suggested, of course, was surgery. I said, okay, fine. If that's what we need to do to get rid of it, okay, no problem. I was suffering with BV prior to that. I was just like, okay, maybe this will help reduce it. Of course it didn't, but whatever. Had the surgery and was great. My periods were fine. Things started regulating, and I thought I was great. And started taking some holistic teas to help with yeast infections and BV, because after surgery, your body's trying to regulate itself, so you will get those infections. And unfortunately, if you get yeast infection and you take the medication, BV follows. And if you get BV, then yeast infection, like a never-ending cycle of crazy. I started, after my surgery, I found out about boric acid suppositories. And so it was recommended by a nurse, and I was like, oh, okay, great, I'll start taking that. Little did I know, about a year after the surgery, I started noticing I was getting these excruciating pains with each period. And I was like, this is weird. What's the problem now? They just removed the fibroids. I thought everything was fine. And so I started doing a little bit more research. At the time, I was doing my master's in healthcare informatics and administration. So I was doing a little bit more research to try to figure out what's happening. Found out that the boric acid, it breaks down your cervix wall. So of course, now when your periods are coming down, there's nothing to protect you, because now this cervix wall, my lining, was starting to diminish because of the boric acid. And I had been taking it for so long. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I was inviting more fibroids in and didn't know. So I started seeing the ads for Happy V I want to say it was either earlier this year or maybe late last year on Instagram. And I kept ignoring it because I'm like, no, I'm taking my boric acid, even though I knew it was damaging my cervix walls. But I was like, it's fine, whatever. There's always something new coming out. I don't want to take anything else. But it just kept coming. Every time I turned around, I kept seeing this thing. And then more people were talking about how boric acid is really damaging your womb more than it's helping your womb with BV. And I knew I did not want to go back to taking the BV medication. And I started noticing that I was getting yeast infections more. I was like, well, where are these yeast? This is insane. Where are these yeast infections coming from? Again, little did I know, the boric acid was masking one thing, but now creating the yeast infections. I started getting yeast infections every month. And I never had an issue with yeast infections that much prior to. So I said, what am I going to do now? So now I'm getting rid of the BV, but now I've got yeast infections every time I turn around. And then the yeast infection medication was bringing about BV symptoms, so then I'd be pushing the suppositories up more often. Recently, earlier this year, before I started taking Happy V, I noticed one of the videos, the young lady said something similar to what I was going through with the constant yeast infections after you take the BV medication. I was like, oh, wait a minute. She's speaking my language. Let me see what she's talking about. And she happened to mention how much she hasn't had an issue with either one since she started taking Happy V. And I was like, she's probably lying. And I still disregarded, I kid you not, disregarded it again. And I was like, I'll just do V steams and hopefully something will get rid of it. The last straw for me was in September this year. No, I'm lying. I had another myomectomy surgery July this year. And of course, I had another yeast infection after, and I was like, I can't live like this. This is driving me insane. And then I started seeing the Happy V stuff again. And I was like, they might be on to something because nothing else is working. And I'm starting to get a headache. And I ordered my first jar in August, but I didn't start taking it until mid-September because I was on vacation and I was back and forth and I kept forgetting to put it in the suitcase. Started taking it in September, and every period, especially after this last myomectomy, I started getting sciatica pain. So imagine excruciating cramps where I have a high tolerance level for pain, like really high, like out of the normal range. I would call I'm a 38-year-old woman. I would call my mother every period crying. Couldn't get any words out, and she automatically knew, okay, her period came today. I would circle, you would see me on my Ring camera circling in my living room, begging God for mercy. I don't know what everybody's faith base is, but mine is with the Lord, and crying because the pain was so bad, I could feel it radiating throughout my whole body. And I couldn't figure out like what is causing this pain. So then I have the body pain and then now the sciatica pain. So the period would end and then the sciatica pain would pick up where it left off. So it would start into my lower back and go all the way out through my left glute through my left leg. I can't sit. I can't lie down. I can't stand. I can't walk. Couldn't figure out. And my surgeon couldn't figure out what was going on. How I found out it was sciatica pain, I did a telemedicine health visit. And that doctor was like, that sounds like sciatica pain. I'm like, okay, so what am I doing? Just dealing with this for the rest of my life? This is nuts. Started taking Happy V after that period in September. Went away, went on vacation, and I noticed with the first period I got in October, I was like, this period's been a little quiet. I was like, oh, maybe because I was in Mexico when I had it. I figured it was the weather. Like I blamed it on everything else. It didn't click in my brain until this period that I'm on right now. No cramping. No yeast infection for the past 6 weeks. No BV for the past 6 weeks, but no sciatica pain. I was like, wait a minute. On day 2, I realized, I said, wait a minute, I haven't had to use my heating pad. I usually overdose, and I do not recommend this, on ibuprofen, 800 milligrams, because the pain is always so bad. Even that doesn't work. So I'm usually taking ibuprofen and doubling down with Aleve dual action. That comes with acetaminophen as well to numb the pain. And this is a cycle that usually goes on for my 5 days. If I took one Aleve the first day, I did not have to take another one the next day. And because I keep the bottle next to my bed because this is my regular crazy routine now. I was like, wait a minute, I haven't visited. What's going on here? So I had to backtrack. What did we do different this time? I was happy. Usually during my periods, my mental health is in a dangerous place because I'm in so much pain. My brain cannot function. That's how bad it is. And I'm usually battling some dark thoughts during that time. I loathe when I know my period is coming because I'm like, oh, here we go. We're going to be in hell for the next 5-6 days. I was happy. Just check out. I said to myself, this is not normal. What's going on here? What's happening? So I had to backtrack. I'm like, what did we do different? I started taking vitamin D because they said it helps to reduce fibroids. But I was taking vitamin D before I started taking Happy V and it wasn't helping this pain. Let's go through our supplements because now I'm like my cabinet full of stuff, just trying to figure out anything to help. And I was like, oh, it's the Happy V. Usually on my period, I can't take any of my probiotics because it causes me to bleed even more and it causes the pain to be heavier. So when I got this period, I was like, yeah, I'm not taking that because it's probably going to do the same thing the other ones did. And something kept saying, take it, just take it. I did. This period, I only saw blood for 3 days. 3 days. Okay? I'm a 7 to 10er. I need you to understand how vital this is for me. I wanted to scream it from the mountaintops because I couldn't believe 3 days. 3? That's it. And the third day was just the drip. That has never happened to me. I've been getting my period since I was 11 years old. I'm 38. I've never seen that. Never. I was like, and I kept taking it. And the more I took it consistently twice a day, I noticed that not even the gas pains. And I was like, and I almost didn't. When I sent the message on Instagram, I was like, they're probably never going to read this, but I'm sending it anyway because I just need them to know. I know that you have it to prevent yeast infections in BV, but I need you to understand how this helped me in a completely different area. You know what I mean? Outside of those two areas that I was struggling with. I was like, no, whoever runs this company needs to know. Push it to the fibroid people because for us, this is a big deal. I'm in a fibroid group on Facebook because the only place that we can go to support each other. There's no other room for us. And also as a PhD student, that is what my dissertation is focused on: endometriosis, fibroids, and PCOS. Because there's not a lot of research on it. There isn't. The only method that they have for us is surgery or to get on birth control, which stops the flow of anyone who wants to produce a family. It's counterproductive. So it's funny, in my research now, I can say, oh no, there's a product that went along with helping with the symptoms. So to be honest with you, it's one of the biggest testimonies of my life because I didn't see this coming when I went out on faith and just said, oh, let me just order one jar. And I ordered my second jar before I messaged you. It came last week. Because I was like, I don't want to run out.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been taking it then for a solid month, right? And just in a month's time, you've seen, wow.
That type of drastic change in my periods in 1 month.
Wow.
1 month.
And no BV, no yeast infections.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
That gives me chills. That's so amazing.
Girl, I'm getting chills myself because even when I repeat it, it's still like I'm telling somebody else's story because I literally called my mom and was like, you didn't notice I didn't call you crying this month? She's like, yeah, I did, but I just figured, okay, maybe you kept it to yourself. I'm like, no, I have not had any issues with this period. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah. I'm just as shocked as you. I didn't have to call my doctor for an additional prescription for ibuprofen. I haven't had to do an Instacart because I usually do an Instacart rush to get the medication into me, the Advil dual action. I'm ordering like my pads and my heating pads and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
I usually go through a pack of number 5 from Always pads because that's how heavy it usually is. I usually keep 4 or 5 in my bathroom on the toilet bowl so I can have access to it. There's 2 of them still sitting up there.
Oh my goodness, your story.
I had to send you that message immediately because I couldn't believe it.
For doing that. No, your story, like what you're saying, like you feel like this is, it sounds like a movie. Like literally everything you've gone through. No, it's not anyone's fault, but I'm so sorry. I wish I could give you a hug.
Thank you.
Is insane, everything that you have gone through and having your period as almost every day, you said, for years.
Yep, in the year of 2021. Yeah, and for the whole year.
I think it's interesting, and I've had this conversation with some friends too that are getting closer to 40 or whatever. You think your health or these issues just go away, but they don't.
Nope. Especially when you're still fertile, it almost started to feel like my body was attacking me with these fibroids because, like I said, there's no help. So you're like, okay, so surgery, but how many times am I going to have you cut me open? And then when I'm ready to have kids, what happens with all the scar tissue now that's embedded from all of these surgeries that you're telling me are okay to have? Something is not, it doesn't make any sense. It can't be a woman's only choice.
And then we at Happy V are pretty against boric acid as well, knowing that it can work for some people. We see it as a Band-Aid, a short-term solution, but to your point too, just knowing that it was literally breaking down your wall. And
Yep.
that's something that isn't talked about.
Nope.
It also can be really bad for fertility as well. If that's something that is in the cards down the road for someone, like the chances of that. But yeah, it's just all these things within women's health that just isn't talked about. And it's just try this, try that, or do this and that. And it's frustrating to know who can you trust, what can you really do. And that's how Happy V was birthed too, with Daniela's story and her trying all these different things and just not working, and being like, there has to be a natural, healthy way to prevent this and to work around this. And so just thank you for sharing your story. This is one of our first customer interviews with a story like yours.
Oh, awesome.
And with what you're dealing with fibroids and stuff too. Can you just talk a little more about that? You know, you are going to be a doctor. How is that usually started? And do you know how it was maybe been started for you, or how old were you too, like when you discovered like that's what the issue was and what you were walking through?
To be honest, late in life. I didn't find out about fibroids until when I got them. I had heard, no, don't let me say that. I knew other people, other women who had fibroids. And I always knew them to be like big, gigantic. They looked like, we used to say, people in my country would say, look like she's carrying twins in her belly because it's so big. Of course, I'm expecting, okay, God forbid if I ever got them, I would notice because they'd probably be huge. When I started noticing that something was wrong, having intercourse was uncomfortable, like extremely uncomfortable. And I couldn't figure out what's happening. I didn't know what was going on. And it still didn't click like, oh, maybe it's a fibroid. I said, oh, maybe there's a cyst or something growing, because I just never thought I would be in the category of a woman who would get fibroids. I just didn't. Call me ditzy. I just was like, no, that'll probably never be me. And I was happy.
Sorry to interrupt. In your 20s, did you ever experience anything?
No.
You were good. Okay.
I had a miscarriage in my early 20s, but it's what they call like a ghost pregnancy, like where the body knows that it's pregnant, there's a baby in there, but it's rejecting the baby. Mm-hmm. So it's literally like, as soon as you get pregnant, it's like, all right, let's get this out of here. And it moves it out. But they had kept saying that they didn't see any abnormal growths. I always got my pap smears every 6 months. It's something I never played with because I was always scared of cervical cancer. And being in the healthcare field for so long, as a woman, there's just things that you know, and you're like, let me just make sure. So they never felt anything abnormal, never saw anything abnormal. So of course now when I'm seeing this, I'm like, wait, my period's been going on for first month, it was 30 days. And then it just kept going. It kept going. So wait a minute. I've been in my period for 2 months, then 3 months, then 4 months. You start to go crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. Your mental health starts to dwindle when you're seeing your period every single day and you have no idea why. Mm-hmm. And nobody can explain to you what's going on. It's no, something is wrong here. Nobody bleeds like this 60 days, 90 days. You're moving 120. Yeah, something's off. Went to the doctor, a great gynecologist, thank God. And when she did the sonogram, she said, oh, well, yeah, here we are. There was 3 of them. Mm-hmm. The first one was 6 centimeters, size of a small baseball. And then the other 2 were in, the 6 centimeter one was in my vaginal canal. So that's why I was uncomfortable during intercourse. Yeah. And it was growing in the tissue. It's like it was just expanding and living its best life, growing in my womb area. And then the other 2 were at the top, closer to my cervix. Mm-hmm. So I said, oh my God, that's why the pain. And she said, with my period, she said, every time your periods come, once it expands, it's pushing against these fibroids. That's why you're in so much pain. I'm like, oh my gosh. So luckily, she was able to schedule the surgery like 2 months later. After we found out, scheduled the surgery. Surgery went well and everything was fine. And I started to go back to being a normal human again for at least the first year. Little did I know that they were growing back in the second year. And I started noticing little things and I was like, God, this pain is just really bad. And I regressed back into the dilapidated infant pose every period now. And it just was like, God, I thought we removed it. What is the problem now? Then I started noticing again the discomfort during intercourse. I'm like, oh, God, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, there's no way. A good thing I followed my instinct, because the doctors kept saying, oh, I'm sure you're fine. It's just growing pains, whatever. I'm like, no, something here is off. Followed my instinct, went back, and they found 3 again. So I'm like, what is happening here? What is going on? And I noticed that anytime I have them growing back, the yeast infections start coming back. And back to back, it's, oh, I'm gone today, take the medication, boop, back again. What's going on here? Is there like extra warmth in there? What's happening? Why are you so moist in there that these yeast infections are just growing happily? I thought it was my diet. I changed the diet. Still, after every period, here comes the yeast infection. So the boric acid was helping to keep away the BV, but it wasn't helping keep away these yeast infections. And like I said, once you take the yeast infection pill, because I stayed away from the creams because I'm like, this is a waste of time. It takes forever for it to come back out. And like your body's just useless now once you take this stupid thing. So I started asking for the diflucan pill. But of course, with that, BV comes right after. So then you start the vicious cycle. So then I was like, okay, this is insane. What am I supposed to do with my life? Second surgery was in July this year. And I got a yeast infection right after that surgery because you bleed for a week and then your period comes right after the bleeding. So it just was like just nonstop crazy. And then the yeast infection came again. I took another diflucan, and now they give you 2. So you take 1 and then you wait a few days and then you take the second one. It's supposed to prevent another one from coming on, but it doesn't prevent the BV. So then I said, okay, I had stopped taking the boric acid once I started doing research and realizing that was the cause of the lining of my cervix diminishing. I was like, that's not going to work. I was still drinking my herbal teas, and I said, okay, I'll just stick with that to try to keep the fibroids from growing back. But I still had the issue of the yeast and having to take this stupid pill every god doggone 2 weeks. It was driving me nuts. And then, like I said, I kept seeing the commercials on Instagram for this Happy V. And I'm like, what is everybody talking about this Happy V? Everybody's selling something. Give me a break. You said this was going to work. That didn't work. You said boric acid. That's not working. It's killing something else. I don't want to hear anything more about this stupid pill. I don't want to hear it. And it was like, the more I didn't want to hear it, is the more I kept hearing it. And I was like, you know what? Let me just try it. Just nothing else working. So who cares? They had given a percentage off, I think, because I think I only paid like $20-something for the jar. And I was like, if we don't like it, then we just won't use it. And I'm allergic to everything under the sun. So what really sealed the deal was the fact that you didn't make it with shellfish. There wasn't any nut products, and there wasn't any iodine in it because I'm allergic to that as well. All seafood and all nuts. So any product that doesn't carry that, and the ingredients mirrored some of the ingredients from my probiotics that I take to prevent like HPV or anything like that, because those things happen. We're women, we're older, it is what it is. When I started noticing, I said, oh, wait, no, this has lactone. I was going down the list. I said, all right, you might be on to something. Because then I said, I can eliminate my other probiotics that I take, and because everything is here. And the dosage amount that you carried for each component was way more than what my probiotic has. I said, oh, this is even better, because then I can just take 2 capsules and get triple the amount. Wonderful, great. Started taking it, la, 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 la. And I was like, okay, I'll wait 2 weeks to see how my body's responding. Am I going to have BV or whatever the case may be? I didn't see anything. So interesting. So, all right. And I didn't pay any attention, but when this period came, I said, no, I can't keep silent about this. I have to tell these people, because you guys are marketing for BV and yeast, but I'm going to need you to check with the fibroid girls as well, because my goodness, to not see that kind of blood that we're used to seeing with fibroids.
Wow.
I'm beaming. Look at my skin.
You're beautiful. Yes.
I'm so
Thank
happy.
you. Yeah. I'm again, I wish I could just give you a hug through the screen. So many questions, so many things to say. I'm curious, what were some of the other things that you were trying for fibroids, BV, yeast infection? I know you mentioned a different probiotic, but and you talked about teas and other things. If you, I don't know, just rattle off all the things that you were trying and thought to try during that time.
Yeah, sure. It was the holistic teas definitely worked for me to keep the fibroids from growing back as big. Because even with this round of surgery, they were like, yeah, there's 1 centimeter or 2 centimeter one. But I know that I have to change my diet to keep them from growing back. So it's really my fault. But the holistic teas I was drinking and still drink for the yeast infection, it's not chemicals. It's more of a holistic approach with their yeast infection medication that they sell. And I like it. It usually kills it, but it doesn't keep it from reoccurring. But it was pretty good. And then it was for the yeast, the boric acid for the and the teas to help shrink the fibroids. Yeah, so those were the three things. And vitamin D, because it's now being studied showing that if you take between 25,000 IUs or 50,000 IUs per day, it keeps fibroids from growing in your body. So I just started implementing that a few months ago, maybe late July, because that was when I found out more about it. So I have the vitamin D and I take that and my Happy V every day. Yeah, because one helps one, and then the other one, as you can see, is helping everything else. So.
Helping everything. Yeah, that's awesome to hear that. Yeah, Happy V pre and probiotic alone is helping with fibroids, the period, BV, and the yeast infections.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just share, getting a little deeper, just how you said a little bit, but just how Happy V and this new kind of chapter or page in your life, health wise, like how it's impacted your confidence, your self-esteem, and just overall maybe where you were before now and where you're at now.
Definitely my confidence 100%, because like I said, when you're dealing with, your period has to come, mine comes every 28 days. And the fact to know that once it ends, I'm like, oh God, in another 28 days, I'm going to have to deal with this again. I can't plan any vacations. I don't even plan to go to the store. I usually know to myself I'm going to be on lockdown. And all my friends know, all my family knows, like, nope, she'll be on lockdown because her period's coming this week. And I'm usually I isolate myself so I can just try to focus in on my mental, because I'm usually like wanting to, not to be graphic, but I just want to just dig it out. And this is not even me trying to be funny. My therapist can tell you, I speak to her about it all the time. I go into a very dark space because the pain is so excruciating. It's like you're saying to yourself, what did I do to deserve this? And I don't know how to stop it. I don't know what to do. Like, I get emotional just thinking about it, because I'm usually pacing my house like a crazy person between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m, because that's when the pain is really, good morning, we want to play. My back is killing me. My lower back is killing me. My stomach feels like there's tigers just ripping me to shreds. Then there's the sciatica pain. So I can't lie down. I can't walk around too much because the pain is in my life. And then the ibuprofen 800 milligrams is not working. Mm. So now I'm really losing my mind. Yeah. You can't sleep. You can't sit down. You can't. What am I doing with my life? It puts you in a very dangerous space. And if you don't have strong mental fibers or even a strong support base, and this goes on every month. Every month. So for me to be able to be in my period cycle as I'm speaking to you, I said, catch myself. I said, wait a minute. Well, what did I do different this time? Because never have I ever been happy during my period. I have never had joy never a day. From 11 years old to 38, never a day. I'm always complaining. I'm always miserable. And I always just want to eat ice cream and go away. Only thing that I noticed, I said, the thing you added was the Happy V. Like, you added nothing else. Because the vitamin D, like I said, I was taking before I was taking Happy V, and it wasn't stopping the cramps. It wasn't stopping the sciatica pain. I have not had an ounce of sciatica pain at all. At all.
It's life-changing.
I never thought I was going to find anything.
No, you think with
even
the surgeries, the medication, all of that, you would think would help. Yeah.
I thought after the surgery, I thought it was going to help, and I was like, it's made it worse. That was my first conversation to my surgeon after I finished the surgery. I was like, I'm in more pain now than I was before I let you cut me open again. For all of this, they could have just stayed in there. Because it felt like I literally had opened up Pandora's box. I was like, this is worse than prior to. Something's wrong. I didn't know what was going on. And the first period after the surgery, the sciatica pain was on 1,000. And I was like, what did he do? I couldn't figure out what he did. I called in for the health medicine visits. That surgery was in July, August, and September. To now come to October and November, and I'm like, November really, because not so much October, November, and I'm like, wait, I slept through the whole night. Why did I sleep through the whole night? I couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm like, I got up, I'm walking, went downstairs to the kitchen. No pain? This is weird. What's happening here? What's going on? No sciatica pain? We on day 3, no sciatica pain? And where did the blood go? Because day 2 was the last time I saw any blood. Day 3 came and it was like, oh girl, we are out of here.
Wow.
Oh, where did everybody go? What's happening? What's going on? Because I'm not used to it. It was, and I was happy. I woke up happy because I wasn't in pain. I'm used to waking up, popping more pills, I have my pills on a schedule. We take this together. Okay, in another 4 hours, we're going to be up. Got to take it again.
Wow.
Happy V has made my V very happy. Oh.
Yes, that's the name. We love
that and well named.
Thank you for sharing your story. One more quick question, because I just feel like everything that you've walked through, that you are just a pool of wisdom. You could go back and talk to yourself before this all happened, or if there's someone else out there walking through a similar journey as you, what encouragement or advice would you say?
Listen to your body, number one. Just because I'm in the healthcare field doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and tell you your doctor knows everything. Your body is always going to tell you, find somebody else. Something is wrong. And it will, if you listen to it, I promise you, my body has never steered me wrong. Anything she said was wrong. Anything she said to pay attention to, I needed to pay attention to. And try different products until you find what works for you. Just because vitamin D works for me doesn't mean that it's going to work for somebody else. And if you, not to be funny, but if you see a commercial a few hundred times, you might want to try whatever it is that's coming up on the screen. Don't be like me to ignore things. Because sometimes your answered request or your answered prayer could just be in that thing that keeps showing up. And I understand that we're living in a time where everybody's scamming you and lying about some product that they're selling, but sometimes you just might hit the jackpot with the one that you think is not going to work for you. And as we get older as women, your body functions better when you give it the tools that allow it to function in a clear manner. When I say that, I'm saying, if you notice that you get yeast infections a lot, or you get BV a lot, or wherever else might be going on wrong, there is something that can help you eliminate whatever that issue might be. And as a woman, it's your job to listen to your body, to just do your research, figure out what that supplement can be, and try 100 different things until you find what works. Just because something might work a little bit doesn't mean that something else can't work better. Because I could have just kept taking my regular probiotics and never looked at Happy V. No, it works better. Imagine it carries the same components, but at a grander scale. So that might be why it's working for me better than the other products. So that's something I would tell myself, continue, or anybody, continue to listen to your body. Your body is never going to lie to you. Even if it tells you to drink more water, there's a reason why it's telling you to drink more water. It could be preventing you from something else that might be going on, or helping aid something that might be going on unbeknownst to you. So definitely, as a PhD student, I can tell you, listen to your